That was pretty in sync.
It wasn't in sync on my side, but maybe it did sync up anyway.
It sounded probably as close as we're going to get. Maybe it wasn't in sync, but maybe it was a little Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
Right.
At least it wasn't 98 degrees.
Oh, fuck them. Nick Lachey can kiss my ass. You never deserved Jessica Simpson. I don't know anything about her. Like, she could be a horrible person. I just wanted to make that joke.
That's fair. That's fair. You remember Ashley Simpson?
You mean the lip-syncing nose job, formerly dating Pete Wentz? Ashley Simpson?
She had kids with that guy.
Did she?
Oh, yeah, they had kids.
Have you...
Yeah.
Have you seen him lately?
Oh.
He looks haggard.
He looks like he could be the uncle of the rest of Fall Out Boy. Like...
Like, it's funny because I only recently started loving Fall Out Boy, but I don't love their, like, current stuff. Like,
okay, yeah.
Because back in the day when, like, Cork Tree and stuff came out, I was like, I'm so punk! And, like, you know, I was trying too hard to fit into, like, this punk rock mold that I wouldn't admit that I liked that stuff, so I would never listen to it. But now that I'm, like, I hit 30 and I'm like, who gives a fuck about, like, trying to fit into this mold of punk rock? So I started, you know, accepting that I enjoy Fall Out Boy. Like, From Under the Cork Tree is a fantastic album, start to finish.
Yeah, definitely.
But, like, so I'm really getting into that stuff, and, like, Thanks for the Memories and stuff like that. But, like, back in those days, Pete Wentz was, like, the face of the band because he was, like, the hot one. All the girls said he was such a babe.
Yeah.
And now you look at Fall Out Boy today, and he's, like, the worst looking one in the group. Like, Pat Stump, like, shaved his sideburns and lost that baby chub, and, like, he's fucking adorable now. Plus, like, the dude is so talented.
Oh, yeah.
Joe, you know, he looks like a metal version of Howard Wolowitz from The Big Bang Theory.
It does.
But, like, Andy Hurley is the only member of that band I follow on social media. The dude's, like, he cut his hair, grew a beard, and started doing CrossFit and got in shape. So now, like, he plays all their shows basically just wearing, like, gym shorts with no shirt on, and he's, like, ripped and built. It's like, goddamn, son, like... And Pete Wentz just looks like he crawled out of, like, the Legion at 3 a.m.
You know, it's kind of funny, to bring it back around, Pete Wentz in the 2000s was kind of the Nick Carter of Fall Out Boy. Like, the one that all the girls wanted and all the girls flocked to, was on the posters, you know. And both of those guys are pretty fucking rough these days.
Oh my god, yeah. They look like they've been in a fight.
Yeah, with each other.
Yep. Speaking of fights...
That's a perfect segue. Welcome to Jedi Dropouts, where we talk about boy bands and other boy band related things. As always, I'm joined by my friend and co-host, hailing from parts unknown and hopefully wearing any trunks at all today, Mr. James Moss.
And I am here with the fourth Dudley boy, Ryan Taylor.
Oh, dreams, man. Dreams. I could never pull off that camo.
No.
Though. Not my thing.
The fake glasses, though.
Oh, absolutely. The Hanson Brothers style glasses, right? With the little tape middle. Yep. Yeah. Multi-purpose. Wear 'em in the ring, wear 'em on the ring.
Yep. Hell yeah.
So if you didn't guess by now, today we're doing a whole episode about fighting. Because over the last I don't know, I'm gonna say half a year or so, a lot of fighting topics have come up in episodes that we wanted to go a little further with. Like in our 30 questions episode, we were talking about wrestling a little bit. In the E3 episode, we were talking about fighting games. And then in the Father's Day episode, we were talking about action movies. So we figured just to throw them all in a fucking pot, mix it around, and make a Jedi Dropouts episode about it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So we've got some fun stuff lined up here today. We have a real mailbag for once.
Yeah.
First time in a couple months now. And I guess that is that's the best thing to kick this off with.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
So we've got 3 questions from 2, I want to say fan mail, but as always it's friend mail because these are close friends of ours. First off, my Final Form co-host, Mitchell Clark. Of course, he had to ask an anime-based question here. He asked us, he wants to know, how long should you and your opponent scream at each other before fighting?
4 episodes.
Yeah, roughly 4 to 5 episodes is a good number. If Dragon Ball Z taught us anything, that's... So, I guess make sure you have some sort of television program playing in the background of any fight that you get in, just so you can measure the screaming appropriately.
Or if you are at the bar and this occurs, the appropriate amount of time to scream at each other is until last call when they turn the lights on.
Well, I mean, it's just easier to see everything with the lights on.
Because then you use that to your advantage. They flick the light on, and it temporarily blinds your opponent, and that is when you strike.
Yeah, there you go. That's when you grab the nearest beer bottle and attempt to do the cool bottle smashy thing, and then
cut your hand. Yeah.
and look like an asshole.
Yep. Story of my life.
If you're getting in a bar fight, you're probably an asshole to begin with.
Probably.
Okay, we got 2 more questions here, both from Matt Pike, who, of course, I expected some questions from, and I definitely expected a wrestling-based question. So, Matt wants to know, James, if me and you were to become pro wrestlers, what gimmicks we would use?
I think, knowing us, we would use the superhero gimmick, kind of like Hurricane Helms.
Yeah, Hurricane, that's right, okay.
Yeah, I think that's the gimmick that we would use. We would be a tag team of guys dressed as superheroes.
Yeah, that's about right.
We could be Hustle and the Atomic Beard. I think that would work.
What about, like, we could be played up for jokes a little bit? We could be like, what's the term they use for those guys they use just to put over other guys? They're only really there to lose to better wrestlers.
I don't know. I'm only familiar... Like, I'm not up on wrestling terminology.
Yeah.
I know, like, heel is, like, the bad guy.
Yeah. You got your heels and your faces. You got your stables. I forget the terms. There's a term for those guys. Like
yeah, I know. I just can't remember what it is.
Like you remember back when Goldberg was a thing, they had that guy Gilbert. Yeah,
I fucking remember Gilbert to shit.
Yeah, that guy.
He tried to jump over the ropes one day and landed on his nuts on the rope, and his opponent just like couldn't stop laughing at him.
Yeah, that guy was one of those. Like, but yeah, what if we did a superhero thing and we called ourselves, instead of the Avengers, the Bvengers?
Yes.
Like the B-list Avengers. Yeah, that could work. I also thought of one that like kind of plays into the geekiness side of it. Is what if you did like a comic book guy style character, where like he was a heel of course, but he was just like overly specific and critical, and like instead of taunting his opponents in terms of like the regular like smack talk, he just pointed out how they were being derivative of better wrestlers from like decades before. I don't know. There's a heel in there somewhere. Yeah, you know. And being a bigger guy, there's only so many types of characters I could play in wrestling. Like it's pretty limited. I'm not Japanese, and the lumberjack thing's already been done so many times, so you know.
Yeah.
And Matt's got one more question for us just to top off this mailbag.
Before we move on to that last question,
yeah.
I think I would draw a lot of inspiration for my persona if we were wrestlers like that from Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah. That could be fun.
Because where I'd think I'm a superhero and I'd be a speedster, people would be like, dude, you're not that fast. And I'd be like, oh, I am that fast. I've just perfected my fast movement to the point where I look like I'm moving at regular speed. It is an optical illusion. Kind of like when he was like, I've mastered moving so slowly that it looks like I'm invisible, and he's just like eating the fucking...
Yeah, I can see that working. I love a good heel. I love a good, like, comical heel, you know?
Yeah. I think that's the role I would play.
Yeah, I could see that. That sounds good to me. Like, one guy that always used to... I used to find really entertaining back in the Attitude Era, because he played the heel so well. He was so easily hateable, but I found him entertaining. Kurt Angle. I always enjoyed Kurt Angle, and like he absolutely played to the audience in a way.
He definitely did.
Of like just trying to be at the biggest douchebag he possibly could.
Yep.
And Chris Jericho used to do a good job with that as well.
I loved Chris Jericho back when I actually used to follow wrestling. Y2J. Yeah,
do you remember that whole event where like he played, like his introduction to the WWE was like played up with the Y2K Millennium Crisis and the Y2J.
I'm gonna have to Google that after and watch it.
Yeah, because like back when the year 2000 was coming, everyone was like, "Oh, there's gonna be a big global catastrophe, and all of our computers and systems are gonna go down." And they called it Y2K, and everyone was like scared what was gonna happen at midnight. And so he played that out with his own countdown to his introduction, and they just kept getting like these promos of Y2J, and that was the introduction of Chris Jericho to WWE. I remember it so well.
And see, talking about Y2K and Chris Jericho and stuff like that, you're going to see, like, when we get into one of our later discussions, you're going to see that was around the time where I was big into wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the era we talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
Because that's really the only era I know at all. But I used to have a Chris Jericho shirt, and on the front it said... You know, it had like his silhouette and it said Y2J, and on the back it said, "Would you please shut the hell up?"
Yes.
And Mom took it away from me. She wouldn't let me wear it to school. Cause I was like 13 at the time.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I like in going back and looking at some of the wrestling, because we have a wrestling segment planned, of course, which we'll get into after. But going back through it a little bit, I tried to date myself and see exactly when I hopped on and off of wrestling, and as far as I can see, it was Survivor Series 1998 where I started, and which was crazy because I was 8 years old, and then I would have hopped off sometime around, I'm thinking around 2004, something like that. And when I say hopped off, I mean like in that period of time, I watched every single episode of Raw and SmackDown, and every pay-per-view. I was a hardcore fan.
I think I was pretty much in the same boat for not as long a period, but I was definitely, like, I didn't miss Raw or SmackDown.
No, never, right?
For a couple of years.
Yeah.
I was big into WCW when I was a kid.
Yeah,
actually.
and that's the thing. Like
back in the days of NWO and the Wolfpack. Oakley, stop licking my face, for fuck's sake. I love you, but not now.
He's the third co-host of this podcast now.
He decided he wanted to jump up in my lap, and he's just like still in playtime mode.
Yeah,
and so he's like licking my face and like biting at my headphones, and he's chewing on the pop filter.
Of course.
Oh, dude. Just speaking of heels.
Yeah.
Cheap fucker just headbutted me.
With WCW, I never was fully an every episode guy or like made an effort to tune into WCW. But
in the days of the NWO and the Wolfpack, I was more WCW than WWF at the time.
Okay.
Because that was before they transitioned into WWE.
Yeah.
To avoid that confusion.
Yeah.
But, back in those days, with the NWO and the Wolfpack, I was more of a WCW guy.
Okay.
And then when NWO came to WWE, that kind of dragged me back into wrestling a little bit because I had stopped watching for a while.
Yeah, the whole...
And then when I heard that they were back, I was like, fuck yes!
Yeah, the whole invasion storyline, right?
Yeah, exactly. With Hollywood Hogan and Razor Ramon and fucking Kevin Nash.
I used to catch like the odd episode of Nitro. A friend of mine who I was really good friends with at the time was the hardcore WCW guy. And so I'd always catch it there, either through reruns or what have you. But like, there was a lot of tempting talent over at WCW. Even after WWF or WWE had stolen, like they'd taken Big Show, they had taken Chris Jericho, but like they still had at the time Booker T. Goldberg, exactly. Goldberg was such a big one for them. Sting was such a fucking good...
Sting was my favorite back in the day.
I think Kevin Nash was the one that really did it for me over at WCW. Rey Mysterio, before he made the jump.
Yep. WCW had a lot more of the Lucha Libre inspired
they had such a good cruiserweight division.
Like, they had Rey Mysterio, they had La Parka, they had the Dragon guy.
Ultimo Dragon, Ultimo Dragon was... Ultimo Dragon and Rey Mysterio Jr. had some fucking phenomenal matches.
I imagine they did with all the fucking acrobatics and aerials that those two were able to do.
Yeah.
They had Eddie Guerrero, they had Dean Malenko.
Yeah, because they brought over the whole... that was one of the last ones before the invasion storyline, was the New Radicals. Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, Eddie Guerrero, and Chris Benoit.
Yep.
And that's another thing. They had Chris Benoit back in his, like... I think just before...
Prime.
Yeah, just before his prime, because... I feel like Chris Benoit's real prime was his that short period in the WWE when he was like heavy champ. Like, he was like one of their main card guys.
Yeah, but that's where Perry Saturn was in his prime, was WCW. That was before he lost his marbles, and like when they took him to WWE, Perry Saturn played this insane character where like he had like the whole moppy thing. Remember?
I remember that. Yeah, moppy.
That was fucked up.
It was very.
Like, that was such a waste. Like Perry Saturn was this big tattooed guy who had like the Rings of Saturn, that signature fucking submission that has, if you've ever been put in, like it actually fucking hurts.
Yeah.
Like there was no reason to fucking toss him out in left field like that, I guess, but there we are.
So, okay, wait. Quick, I mean, we're already on a big wrestling tangent here, but this is like the whole point of the episode, just to talk about these topics we've been wanting to get to. So, we've mentioned Chris Jericho, you mentioned the Rings of Saturn, we mentioned Dean Malenko. what's your favorite submission move? Because everyone had a submission move that like was their go-to in terms of like practicing home wrestling. Every kid that watched wrestling played wrestling with their friends. Did you have a submission?
I used to put my sister in the walls of Jericho a lot when we would get in fights as kids.
Yeah.
Like, I was 13, she was 9, and we fought like cats and dogs, and I would put her in the walls of Jericho all the time.
Yeah.
The one that
okay.
My older cousin used to put me in a lot was the figure 4 sharpshooter.
Oh, okay, yeah. The
and
like the Bret Hart sharpshooter, or yeah.
The Bret Hart sharpshooter.
That was one of my go-tos for sure.
I thought that one was always really cool.
Yeah. One that I always loved to watch, but I could never do it at home because I could never figure out the logistics of it, was the Ric Flair figure 4. I kept, like, I tried it and I could not figure out how it worked as a kid.
There were a few, like, I'm thinking back on when I used to play No Mercy on N64.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember back to, like, what some of the submission moves on that game were, like the finisher submissions.
Oh,
and I'm
Crippler Crossface.
Crippler Crossface was good.
Yeah.
That was Chris Benoit's, wasn't it?
Yeah. He had that one, and he
good.
had the flying headbutt that he probably should not have ever done for obvious reasons.
The Crossface was one of my favorites too.
Yeah.
But I probably got to say the Walls of Jericho.
Honestly, the one that I used to like was my go-to in terms of like home wrestling and moves I could actually figure like actually do properly was the Taz Mission.
The Taz Mission?
Yeah. I
that's basically just a like flailing full Nelson.
Yeah, pretty much. I know. Yeah. But like I think I kind of like Taz was kind of a pudgy dude. And I think I kind of related a little bit. And I was like...
Taz was very short and stocky.
Yeah. I was like, hey, it's a pudgy guy who is apparently very powerful, and his move looks like easy to copy. I'm gonna stick to that.
Nice.
Yeah. No, Taz was pretty fun. He was pretty short-lived before he went to announcer as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we got that out of our systems. Okay, let's move on to the last mailbag question, and this is going to be fun. Matt Pike again would like to know, what is the worst fight scene you've ever seen in a movie or TV? I don't think he specified, but you know.
The worst fight scene in a movie.
I've got one. It's not from a movie. It's from a TV show.
You go first, and then while I think on this.
Okay, so it's a Star Wars podcast. We're all about Star Wars. I've always preferred Star Wars to Star Trek. Not to say Star Trek doesn't do some great stuff. In terms of the technology and the science and some of the storylines, Star Trek is phenomenal. But their fight scenes can sometimes lack a little bit. And when looking back through fight scenes for this, the one that just screams as like the worst fight scene I've ever witnessed is from the original Star Trek series. It's Captain Kirk in a fist fight with an alien called Gorn. And it is just fucking amazingly funny. It's hilarious to watch, but like it is one of the worst fight scenes you will ever witness. Because William Shatner had no idea what he was doing. He was just making up what he thought were fight moves, and like he does the whole like he grabs his hand together and does like a double-handed smack to the back thing that doesn't make any sense.
The axe handle smash.
The axe handle smash, which I guess works in wrestling when it's done in a way that looks choreographed properly, but not when William Shatner just flails both his arms at the back of a guy in a rubber suit. Again, that Star Trek original series is my favorite Star Trek, but William Shatner, his fighting abilities kind of could have used some work, to say the least. Yeah, that's my pick for that one. That is just by and far the worst.
I kind of want to say one of the fights from... See, there's so many. But one of the ones that bothers me the most is in The Dark Knight.
Okay.
When Christian Bale, Batman, is breaking up the drug deal between Scarecrow and the Chechen gangster.
Yep.
And, like, the way he comes out and he's, like, fighting the dudes with the AKs, like, his movement is so robotic and stiff and rigid, and it's like, there's no way in an actual fight this dude with the AK wouldn't have had time to get a few shots off on him.
Yeah, I hear you there.
Like, they're basically just, like, standing there, like, with their gun pointed at the ground, waiting for Batman to robotically take down one guy, and then they, like, slowly raise up their gun to give him time to, like, grab onto the barrel of the gun and use his, like, wince grip thing to twist the barrel. It's like, in, like, the 2 seconds it took his grip thing to, like, bend the barrel down, you couldn't have, like, kicked at him or punched at him or anything. It's like he's just so robotic. And then, like, we have like Batman in the Batman vs Superman in that warehouse when he's going to save Clark's mom. Like, how fluid his movement was and how he was all over the place and how fast-paced it was. That's how Batman is supposed to fight.
Yeah, exactly.
The dude's, like, a master of all these different forms of martial arts, and yet in The Dark Knight, like that, he's very rigid and not, like, very, like, he looks like a fucking rock'em sock'em robot. And, like, no wonder Bane was able to kick his ass in The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah. I just realized something we haven't mentioned at all.
What's that?
To the listeners, everything may sound a little clearer than it usually does, and that's because we're using a different recording technique today.
We're finally trying something new, trying to improve things for you guys.
We're trying to get better. I mean, it doesn't take much to make this better, but we're trying.
Yeah.
So yeah, well,
when the bar is set this low, any little effort, seems huge.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully this worked out, and what you're hearing is hopefully our new standard.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully this isn't just like the one time we sounded good. That's almost worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it for the mailbag, I guess. Although I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring here for worst fight scene. I just remembered that Street Fighter the movie exists, so maybe there's
my God,
there's probably something in there. I haven't watched it in a while. But on the other end of things, segueing perfectly in here because Matt asked a perfectly fitting question. We actually chose today to do our top 3 fight scenes for movies. The other end of it,
yes, we did.
What we think are the best fight scenes.
Yep.
This was a hard list to narrow down.
It was. Like, so the way I approached it was, like, I didn't necessarily pick what I thought were, like, the most technical, the most, like, I picked the fight scenes that... I picked one that gets me emotionally every time I watch it.
Okay.
And I picked two out of like the plethora of fight scenes that like even if I'm not in the mood to watch that particular movie, sometimes I get in the mood to just like pull up this fight scene on YouTube and just watch the fight scene by itself.
That's fair.
So my number 3 pick is an emotional one, and my top 2 are ones that I continually watch on YouTube.
Okay.
And there was one that was also there was one that was a very good honorable mention as well.
Nice. I'm just gonna say I've got like the least traditional list here.
Nice.
I have everything I have is from the 2000s onward. I have nothing prior to that. Nothing from the 90s or older. And I know, like, I guess it's a little blasphemous. No, there's no Bruce Lee in here. Nothing like that. There's none of the classic. But I went with stuff that I just personally enjoyed the most. Some of them from some of my favorite movies ever. Just fight scenes that I could watch over and over again for one reason or another, and mostly because they're fun, because generally with any entertainment I just like something that's fun. As simple as that sounds.
There's one of mine that I was thinking like, maybe Ryan might have this on his top 3 list as well.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Okay. Who's starting this one?
I'm going to kick this one off.
Okay, go for it.
I'm not going to get too in-depth into my number 3 pick because you still haven't seen this movie and I really want you to watch it. But for number 3, I picked the climactic fight between Brendan and Tommy in the movie Warrior.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
It's a pretty well done MMA fight scene. Like, in a cage, everything like that. And just, like, these two brothers who haven't seen each other in years, like, coming together in the cage and fighting each other, like, each fighting for a different reason. Like, just, the way it ends and everything that goes into it and the build-up to it, it's very emotional, and my eyes are seldom dry after watching this.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, that's Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton?
Yes, sir.
That's like the main reason I wanted to watch this movie, and it's been just sitting there waiting for me to watch for a while now. The cast sounds amazing.
Yeah. The two of them, plus Frank Grillo's in it, Nick Nolte's in it.
Frank Grillo's in that, really?
Yeah, Frank Grillo plays one of the trainers.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I love Frank Grillo. He's not in enough.
Yeah. No, this movie's fantastic. And actually, Kurt Angle's in this movie.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. That might be what gets me to watch it.
Cycling back to Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going through all 3 of yours first, or are we going back and forth?
I'm going to go through all 3 of mine first.
Okay, go for it.
My number 2 pick, I actually chose a fight scene from The Expendables 2.
Okay.
Over my honorable mention, which was from the first Expendables.
Yep.
And both of those picks involve Jason Statham.
Of course.
My honorable mention, like, I almost put this as number 2, was the scene from the first Expendables movie where Jason Statham goes to the basketball court and puts the beat down on the guys because Buddy hit the woman. Love that fight scene. I've watched it so many times on YouTube. It's one of my own.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. But I went with the scene between Jason Statham and Scott Adkins from The Expendables 2.
Ooh. I haven't seen the second one. I saw the first one, and it was on a night shift years ago, so like it's a little fuzzy, but I do remember that basketball court scene.
Yep.
I have not seen the sequels.
Well, I mean, basically, like, you know who Scott Adkins is?
Yeah, I know the name. What do I know that name?
He's in the, was it Boyka series, the kickboxing movies? There's like 4 of them.
Okay.
The dude does a lot of stunts, a lot of fight scenes. He played one of Mads Mikkelsen's disciple guys in Doctor Strange.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Anyway,
I know the guy.
This fight scene between 2 of the best martial arts actors currently going, like outside of Asian markets.
Yep.
And these guys are just like going at it, and then they're fighting next to a helicopter in a hangar. And the fight scene ends with Jason Statham wearing 2 sets of brass knuckles, and he literally punches Scott Adkins so his head goes into the tail rotor of a helicopter, and his head just splatters.
Awesome. It's a nice sort of Indiana Jones callback.
Oh, bit. Yeah. It is one of the coolest ends to a fight scene I've ever seen. Just like these 2 guys, they're punching, they're kicking, they're throwing, they're stabbing, and then it just ends with a dude's head getting punched into helicopter blades.
Nice.
And
Good
I
stuff.
love it.
Yeah.
And my number 1, my favorite fight scene of all time, which is one that I thought might make your list.
Okay.
From Kill Bill Volume 1, The Bride versus the Crazy 88.
Nice. Good pick.
That fight scene is so bloody and so well choreographed.
It really is.
And, I mean, who doesn't love a fight scene where it's like one versus many?
Exactly, right?
And Uma Thurman was such a badass in those movies. Like, I love Kill Bill. Those movies are great. But the best part of both of those movies for me is her just hacking up the Crazy 88. Like, the acrobatics, like, just, like running up the fucking rails on the stairs, and just all the shit in that scene is so good.
And the way it switches from color, the black and white.
And silhouettes and...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, like, just everything about that scene, like the different, like, styles, the animation, like, just the choreography. It's fantastic. Like, it's a blood fest.
Yeah.
And I die for it.
Yeah. Solid list.
Oh, yeah. Like, I could watch those 3 fight scenes on YouTube right now.
Yeah. And I went back and made sure to rewatch everything on my list. And rewatching them really helps cement, like, yes, this is definitely my top 3.
Yep.
So I'll just kick mine off now. My number 3 was a Jason Statham movie, but weirdly enough, Jason Statham is not in this fight.
Nice.
My number 3 is from the movie Snatch.
Ooh.
Brad Pitt's Mickey in the very first fight, the introduction. I love that fight to fucking death. And I saw that fight long before I ever saw the movie, because my dad is obsessed with this movie and with the character of Mickey. So if you haven't seen the movie, Brad Pitt plays this skinny little Britishman who is basically playing a Newfoundlander in the way he does his accent and the way he does the character. So he... Actually, sorry, I said British. He's Irish, I'm pretty sure. So you see, he's known as One Punch Mickey, and he's facing, I guess, the local tough guy who's like twice his height, twice his size, and that guy is just tossing him around in this bare knuckle fight, and Mickey's just sort of cracking his neck, taking off his jacket, just slowly, preparing himself for the fight, and he makes a couple little like shots at him, like just a couple little verbal jabs, and then as soon as he's ready, bam, one punch and the big guy's down. And I fucking love that fight. Like, it's so short and sweet and simple, but it's it just stands out as one of the best fights I've ever seen in a movie.
Nice. I like the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes fight where he like breaks it down scientifically, like box the ears. That fight's good. There's a lot of good fights in that Jason Statham have in the Transporter movies as well.
Yes, you're absolutely right. The fire hose one or something like that is a water hose. I forget what it is he's using. He's using a hose of some sort. That one always stood out to me. And another one that just comes to mind is there's a really good fight in, I think it's the first Jason Bourne movie.
Nice.
And it takes place in like a bathroom or something. Like not on the list, but just fights that kind of stand out as like I like whenever they try something different and they do it well.
There was a fight in one of the animated Resident Evil movies, like the newest one. Is it Vendetta?
Okay, yeah.
That I really like. It's Chris and Leon in a hallway full of zombies. And just like, I'm pretty sure what they did is they used like mocap for a lot of this fight scene. But just like, it's not just them like stood there just like keeping their distance shooting the zombies. No, like these guys are like up close and personal with the zombies and like pinning tripping the zombies up and like putting two of their heads, like stacking them one on top of the other so they can take both of them out with one bullet. And like, oh my god, it is a fantastic scene.
It's great when they manage to mix gunplay into a well choreographed martial arts scene.
Well, there's a specific martial art that's called that Leon is supposed to be an expert in. Like when after they recruited him for the Secret Service after the incidents of Raccoon City, they trained him in this specific martial art and he became an expert at it. And I can't remember what it's called. Off the top of my head right now.
There was something that almost made the list, but I wasn't sure if the entire movie John Wick counted as a scene. It kind of is. It's one extended.
But you know how like John Wick holds his pistol like sideways really close to his body doing those shots and like getting super up close and personal with them and like shooting them directly in the face? That is basically what Leon and Chris are doing with the zombies in this scene. And that it's one of the martial arts that John Wick is proficient in as well.
John Wick is excellent too.
I need to rewatch John Wick.
Oh, I
still haven't seen the second one.
Second one's good. It's really good. I enjoyed the first one a little more though. I'm going to mention the honorable mention that did not make my list but was very close. It was also a very recent movie. Mad Max Fury Road. The fight scene in the desert where Max is fighting Furiosa. So you've got a one-armed Charlize Theron fighting a Tom Hardy who is chained to an unconscious man who at some point wakes up, and there's so many props used there. It's just a really well choreographed fight. Really enjoyed that one.
Fuck yeah.
So, speaking of John Wick, my number 2 is a different Keanu Reeves. Obviously, we're going to The Matrix here. Which is definitely not something that would normally make a top fight scenes list because it's so sci-fi.
Yeah.
But that fight scene in the subway in the very first movie, where it's just Neo versus Agent Smith.
Towards the end.
And yeah, that fucking subway scene, and like the way that they used practical effects to get some of those things that would normally be CGI.
Yeah.
It's fucking brilliant. Like the impacts of like the walls cracking beneath their weight, and just that combination of like cool sci-fi effects, gunplay, and actual martial art choreography is fucking brilliant. I love that fight scene. Oh,
that was very nearly on my list as well.
Yeah. And it wasn't on my initial list, and then I rewatched it and was like, okay, yeah, that I have to put that one in there. And my number one, we fully agree on this. It's The Bride versus the Crazy 88, man. Like,
really?
Yeah, from the get-go. This was the first thing that popped in my head when we talked about fight scenes. And it has always been my favorite fight scene, and it will always be my number one.
See, when I put this on my list, I was like, it has to be this, and I just had a strong feeling that you were going to include it as well. Oakley, dude, it's not playtime right now.
Yeah, like, I've always been a big Tarantino fan, and, like, not going to get into the politics, he's become a little problematic, but, like, his movies, he makes great movies, and, like...
He does.
Kill Bill, this scene in particular, I think for a lot of people is, like, the thing they know the most from Tarantino. When a lot of people think of Tarantino, they think of, like, the blood fountains spurting out of people's severed limbs and shit like that, right?
Fuck yeah.
This scene is just so fucking good. The whole movie. And, like, I thought about it, and, like, there's a lot of fight scenes that I think if I was going to make a top 10, I think more Kill Bill might find its way in there. Because The Bride versus Oren Ishii at the end of that movie.
Yep. The kitchen fight scene, too, between The Bride and... it's Vivica A. Fox's character, isn't it?
She's so brief in the movie, I always forget the character's name.
But it's still a fantastic scene.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Fuck yeah.
So yeah, that's our list. We actually we agree on that one.
Completely agree.
I don't know if we ever named the same number one on a list before. Did we ever do that?
I don't think so. Except for, like, maybe when we were, like, ranking something with a very limited pool, like the Netflix Marvel series.
Even then, you know what? We both agreed on Deadpool being the best of the X-Men movies.
Yeah.
There you go. So, I don't have anything else to touch on there with the fight scenes.
Nope.
That was really fun to get into.
Oh, was it ever?
And that's definitely a topic we can come back to sometime in terms of just talking about our favorite action movies. Because there's so many. There's such a wide genre to touch on.
Oh my god, yes.
So, the next thing we're going to get into is the topic of fighting games.
Yeah.
Which I've talked about a few times. I'm a big lover of fighting video games.
Yeah, fighting games is much more your wheelhouse than mine.
But in terms of what we're doing today, because we got into a big tangent on fighting games in our E3 episode.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've really touched on everything in terms of which games are our favorites. And so on, which franchises. But what we're going to do today, something we haven't done in a while, is we're going to fan cast some characters from fighting games. So if you're not big on fan casting, stick with it. We won't be too long at this, but we're just going to take any 3 characters from a fighting game and cast who we think should play them in a movie or a TV show or what have you.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna kick this off.
I'm interested. I was wondering. I was like, what fighting game is Ryan gonna choose? Because I know what games tend to be your favorite, and I was like, is he gonna do this game? And if so, what characters is he gonna do?
Oh, I see. You took it as one game.
Well, I chose all 3 of my characters from one game. I
actually chose.
You chose.
I actually chose 3 games.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Because I came up with 3 castings in particular from 3 different series, so I just stuck with it.
Sure.
First one, pretty local guy, actually. I believe he's from Nova Scotia, if I'm not mistaken. And as soon as I say the actor's name, I feel like the character is going to come right to you. Are you familiar with a guy named Robert Maillet?
No.
Okay, he's a big guy from Nova Scotia. He was in... Oh, let me see. He was in 300. He was in Sherlock Holmes, Robert Downey Jr. movie. He was in Deadpool 2. He used to wrestle under the name Kurgan back in the Attitude Era.
Let me have a look at him.
You probably recognize him if you looked him up. Anyway, I think he would be a dead ringer for Zangief from Street Fighter. I could see it perfectly. I think he's got the size. He's got the physicality. I've seen him in movies. I think he's good enough at acting to play the part.
Let's see if he's the guy I'm thinking of. Sherlock. How do you spell his name? I was just going to Google Sherlock Holmes.
First name Robert, last name Maillet, M-A-I-L-L-E-R.
Oh, I found him.
Yeah. Tell me that guy's not a fucking dead ringer for Zangief.
That's the guy I was thinking as soon as you said, like, from Sherlock Holmes and everything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's got that big fight in the first one, I think.
Yeah, where it's around the shipyard, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the guy I would cast as Zangief in a Street Fighter movie. Who the hell else would I cast in that movie? I don't know.
See, I assumed you were going to go all Street Fighter.
I thought about it, but like a lot of those characters are meant to be Asian, and I couldn't think of the right actors for it, so I didn't go with it. I wouldn't like with whitewashing controversies and stuff these days. I feel like some of them, like you could switch around the nationalities of maybe some of them, but like at least Ryu should probably not be white. Maybe
no, God no.
But anyway, that's all aside. I had two other castings I thought were fun, so I went with them.
Sure.
Second one is from Tekken.
Nice.
I would like to see Michael B. Jordan from Black Panther play Eddie Gordo. I feel like he could nail Eddie Gordo. If you remember him from, I think Tekken 3 is where I know him best. He's the capoeira guy who's always like standing on his hands.
I'm familiar with Eddie Gordo.
Yeah, you know Gordo, right? Gordo was so much fun. He was my favorite to play as in Tekken 3.
When you said Tekken and Michael B. Jordan, I thought you were going to say, what's his name, Raven.
Okay, yeah.
The ninja guy who came in like Tekken 4 or 5?
Okay, I see what you're saying there. Yeah.
That's who I thought you were going to say. But
yeah, it makes sense. I would just like to see like Eddie Gordo in a Tekken movie or a TV show or whatever.
You know who I think would be a good person to play Eddie Gordo?
Yeah.
Is what's his name? The guy who just played Bushmaster in Luke Cage Season 2.
Oh shit, yeah, that would work too. I feel like Michael B. Jordan would have the right combination of acting skills, fighting, choreography.
Yeah, he's definitely got the physicality for it.
Yeah. And I feel like I've never seen it, I've never witnessed it, but I have this hunch that Michael B. Jordan probably knows how to dance. He just seems like the kind of guy who probably dances.
Yeah.
You know?
He seems like he seems like a fun guy like that.
Yeah. Plus he's a big fucking geek, so he probably plays Tekken.
Yeah.
So he's probably played his fair share. I know like Michael B. Jordan is like a huge Naruto fan and like watches all this anime and shit. So who knows? Maybe he
may or may not listen to this podcast.
Oh yeah, I bet he does. I'm sure Michael B. Jordan, star of Black Panther, is sitting at home in his mansion in LA or wherever it is and listening to Jedi Dropouts.
Yep, he's one of our 15 devoted listeners.
And lastly, I think this casting would maybe piss off a lot of people, but I think it is perfect casting. Mortal Kombat. Johnny Cage should be played by Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And my reasoning is I think Tom Cruise is actually Johnny Cage. Um, if you paid attention to the story of Mortal Kombat, Johnny Cage is just an action movie star. That's what he is.
Yep.
But somehow he thinks he's confident enough to be like, yeah, I can fight in this tournament with superhuman beings and win. Which, that's Tom Cruise. He's just an actor, but he's like...
He's basically Hercule.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Tom Cruise, even though he's just an actor, is like, yeah, I'll climb on the side of a skyscraper. I can do that, because I am an action star. And, like, I feel like with Mortal Kombat, if you just casted Tom Cruise in the role and was like, hey, dude, you're going to fight in a tournament to the death with these superhumans. Don't even tell him he's in a movie. He'd be like, yeah, I'm on it. Sure. And then you'd get, like, the best Johnny Cage ever.
Yep.
Because he's basically the same person.
Yeah.
He's basically, like, you know, he's basically like an American Conor McGregor, really.
Fuck. So what you're saying is he's the most arrogant thing in the universe.
Yeah, really.
An American Conor McGregor? Like, fuck sakes.
I don't think there are enough states to contain the size of that ego.
Nope.
But I just want to backtrack for a second here, and just because I'm fan casting Tom Cruise and I actually kind of enjoy some Tom Cruise movies, I am aware Tom Cruise is a big piece of shit. He's a terrible person, and I do not support that human being. I just want to say that.
Yeah.
Fuck Tom Cruise. But, like, I mean, Mission Impossible is pretty good. So,
Hashtag Jedi Dropouts. Hashtag fuck Tom Cruise.
Yeah, there you go. Get that trending. What do you got for your video game fan castings here?
I went with a game that, to my knowledge, has not been made into a movie yet.
Okay.
But it's probably my favorite fighting game series, because it's the one I'm best at. I went with Soul Calibur.
Yeah. Okay.
I kind of copped out on one of them, because when I think Soul Cal, the first character that comes to mind is Nightmare.
Okay.
And I just casted Tony Todd as the voice of Nightmare.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because Nightmare's going to be mostly CG anyway.
Well, yeah.
But
I feel like you could get away with a lot of CGI in a Soul Calibur movie.
Yeah. But I definitely thought Tony Todd's just, like, iconic, deep, like, menacing voice would be perfect for Nightmare.
Yeah.
How well do you know the characters in this game?
Pretty good. Like, it's been a minute since I played it, but back in, I want to say 2011, that area, I had a period where I played Soul Calibur 4 a fuck ton.
Okay, good, because I used the characters' appearances in Soul Cal 2 and 4 as the basis of my casting.
Okay, so I got a rough idea what you're talking about here.
Okay, so for number 2, I casted probably my most played character, Maxie.
Okay, that's fair.
And I thought Louis Tan would be great as Maxie.
Oh, Louis Tan is phenomenal.
I mean,
best known for what? What is Louis Tan best known for at this point?
Well, one of the most recent things I saw him in was the drunken boxing scene in Iron Fist Season 1.
Yeah.
But Maxie is a pirate from Shanghai.
Yep.
And Louis Tan's father is Chinese.
Okay. Yep.
So, you know, I thought that worked there.
Makes sense.
Because, like you said, with the whitewashing and with, like, there's been a lot of controversies lately about, you know, people not casting the appropriate people and stuff like that. And, you know, like, sometimes I think people go a little too far with that outrage. Sometimes it's very well placed. Like, whitewashing, I get that. But sometimes, in certain circumstances, I do think people take it a little too far. But in this case, I didn't want to just, cast someone being like, oh, they're Asian, so they could play someone from Korea. Like, no, if I'm going to cast a character who is Korean, I'm going to cast a Korean actor. So I looked into it and made sure that Louis Tan was of at least partially Chinese descent.
Okay, yeah.
And that's why when I cast Mitsurugi, who is probably one of the most iconic Soul Calibur characters, I made sure that I cast someone of Japanese descent. I had a character in mind, from the get-go. And so I did a quick bit of Google, and I mean very quick, because I just popped his name into Google, and, the first line of his bio is, that he was born in Japan.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought Brian T. would be perfect as Mitsurugi.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Brian T., he played the Shredder in the second Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, the one where Stephen Amell played Casey Jones.
Okay, yep.
He also...
Out of the Shadows, right?
Yeah. He also played one of the guards who was trying to track down the Indominus Rex in Jurassic World. He was...
okay, yeah.
He was Captain Hamada on... Was it Hamada or Harada? I can't remember. I'd have to Google that. But he was the leader of the team that they sent out into the jungle to try and track the Indominus Rex when they found out that it was able to camouflage itself, and it had torn out its tracker and left it there as a little decoy when it set the trap on them. He was the leader of that team.
Yeah.
But he can do action. He's a big, imposing, but not gargantuan sized Japanese man. And he looks very stern, very serious, very intense. And I think that would be perfect for a samurai like Mitsurugi.
Yeah, that sounds all great to me.
Yeah.
I just thought, okay, we're going to take a little tangent here on fighting game movies.
Us take a tangent? No way.
Yeah. Never. So, they have made movies and TV shows based on fighting games in the past.
Yes.
What would you say is the best casting that's ever been done in that area?
Best casting?
Yeah.
Honestly, one of the first ones that comes to mind in terms of best casting in a fighting game based movie is Kylie Minogue as Cammy in Street Fighter.
Okay, yeah. That works. I've got two specific ones because there are two movies based on the two biggest fighting game franchises of all time that I don't think are very good movies. But each one I thought had one character perfectly cast.
Some of the casting in Mortal Kombat wasn't bad.
Yeah, in Mortal Kombat, the guy who played Kano was perfect.
Yeah.
He was absolutely perfect. And I really like Kano. He's sort of an underrated Mortal Kombat character. And the other one from the Street Fighter movie, which was fucking horrendous. I actually like Raul Julia as M. Bison.
Yeah.
I really like Raul Julia, and I thought he was one of the high points of what is kind of an unbearable movie to watch.
Yeah.
I don't know. That just popped in my head.
Have you watched any of Mortal Kombat Legacy?
I have not, and I've heard such good things.
I have it here on DVD, and you should definitely borrow it sometime. Let me see. I just got to pull up something real quick. Because I remember there was some casting in that I thought was pretty good. And I just got to double check just to make sure I'm not horribly mistaken on this.
Jedi Dropouts giving false information.
No way.
We would never do that. We would never misquote something. No, sir.
Never, ever. Oh, Brian T. was Liu Kang in Mortal Kombat Legacy as well.
There you go.
Yeah, okay, I was right. Michael J. White plays Jax in...
Oh, that's good casting.
It is.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I always forget about Jax.
Yeah, but he was great. And I also really like what they did with Baraka in...
Oh yeah, in the second movie, right?
In, no, Mortal Kombat Legacy.
Oh, in Legacy? Okay.
Yeah, rather than having him be this... Was it Mortal Kombat Legacy or was it a web series that I saw? But Baraka, instead of being a demon, basically, an otherworldly, unhuman thing, was just a psychopath that was obsessed with body mods.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
that makes sense.
had like all the subdermal implants and stuff like that, and the silicone balls implanted in his face and all over his body, and all kinds of tattoos everywhere, teeth filed, and had blades surgically implanted into his arm.
Huh.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool and outside the box.
Yeah, no, that sounds pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. Now I want to watch Mortal Kombat Legacy.
Nice.
Know what I'm doing tonight after I take the dog for a walk.
So I guess that's all I've got to say about that area.
The fan casting section?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the last one, and honestly I think the one that I'm most excited to get to here, of course, we got to talk about professional wrestling for a little while here.
Yep. And I'm glad we're cycling back to professional wrestling, because while we've been talking, after our initial discussion about what we would do as wrestlers,
yeah,
I've been brainstorming this entire time what my ring attire would look like.
Yeah.
And I think it would look like... It would be very much inspired by The Flash and Lucha Libre.
Okay, yeah.
It'd be very much inspired by those two things. Maybe a bit of Deadpool in there somewhere.
Okay, yeah. I really like the old school leotard get-up. Maybe with sort of the shirts with the tank style ones though.
Nice.
Back in the day when they used to wear they would have the big boots and the pants with trunks over the pants, and maybe some kind of design going down through the leg. That whole get-up, those were I always loved those days. But instead of going with we could have went with our favorite wrestlers or our favorite moves, finishing moves like we talked about.
Yeah.
We decided to go with our top 3 wrestling matches of all time. Which got me on quite the nostalgic trip here this past week. I went to look at highlights of matches, and I ended up just watching entire matches because they were just so fucking good. Before we get into it, before we get into the whole wrestling thing, I just want to quickly mention, of course, there is a trend in professional wrestling with wrestlers dying much too soon, dying at a pretty young age due to the effects that wrestling has had on their health, and in a lot of cases drugs, of course, is a way too common a story. So I just want to quickly shout out a couple wrestlers that we've lost this year. Big Van Vader Bruno Sammartino and most recently Jim the Anvil Neidhart all lost this year. All absolute fucking legends.
Yep.
It's sad, but hopefully in the future we see less of that, because it seems like they've finally caught on and cut back on this drug thing. Hopefully that is a story that we see in the years to come. Of course, it's probably going to be a little while, because right now is when you're seeing a lot of these, like, the guys who, I mean, a lot of them are only in their 50s and 60s, and that's when they're dropping just because their heart can't take it anymore.
Well, I mean, a lot of the steroids that they're encouraged to take can lead to cardiac issues.
Yeah.
Plus, a lot of them, the wear and tear they put their bodies through during the matches takes its toll. Plus, a lot of them ended up addicted to painkillers to cope with the wear and tear on their bodies due to all the matches and, like, hitting each other with chairs and putting each other through tables and stuff like that. And, like, it takes its toll. And I sometimes don't think that these people are respected enough for what they put themselves through just for our entertainment.
No, exactly. But I do think, I from what I can tell, the WWE in particular has made great strides forward in terms of cutting this shit out.
Which is fantastic. Like, that's the kind of thing, like, I hope to see from, like, the NFL when it comes to head trauma. Yeah,
exactly. Like, I don't know much about it. I haven't read that far into it, but I do know that for the longest time, in particular, the Hardy Boys and Kurt Angle were sort of blacklisted from the WWE because they didn't adhere to the regulations and their drug testing.
Okay.
And I know that it was like I know Jeff Hardy has had painkiller issues for years, and Matt Hardy has been on and off with a lot of stuff. But all three of those guys are now in the WWE again, and I hope that means that it's caused them to clean up their act and finally kick this stuff.
I hope so.
I hope that's what it means. I hope it doesn't mean the opposite and that the WWE has just stopped caring again.
Yeah, I hope that it's because these guys have cleaned up their act instead of the company getting more lax.
Exactly. That's where I'm hoping it is, but I mean, I guess we won't know until it all comes out in the wash anyway.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to throw in a quick nod to those guys, Vader, Sammartino, and Neidhart, R.I.P. Again, absolute legends of professional wrestling. So, with all that aside, you want to get into the top 3 matches. Who's kicking this one off?
I will.
Okay.
You went first for the last one.
Yep. Okay, first things first, how many of your matches are Attitude Era?
What years did the Attitude Era fall under? Because I'm pretty sure the answer is all 3.
Yeah. That's like one of mine. I'm not positive because I don't know what you would constitute the
when
beginning.
Did the Attitude Era end?
And I think most people consider the Rock versus Stone Cold WrestleMania, the final match of Stone Cold's career. I think a lot of people consider that to be the end of the Attitude Era.
Okay.
But that's like 2004-ish, or something like that. I'm not positive. I know it's kind of loose, but chances are if you've got an Attitude Era wrestler in the match, then it constitutes Attitude Era. Unless you're looking at, like, you know, I mean, Undertaker was wrestling up until just a couple years ago, so.
Yeah.
But we'll see it as it goes. Yeah, chances are all these matches are Attitude Era because I mean it was a popular time, considered by many to be one of the greatest periods of wrestling, and like we said, all your matches are WWE, WWF, right?
Yeah.
Not to say that they're the be-all, end-all of wrestling, but as much as we have been longtime fans, we don't go that deep, I guess.
Yeah.
In terms of I've never watched any New Japan wrestling or TNA. I've never really watched any of that stuff.
No. And if anyone out there, if I make a mistake on the year or the event that these matches took place at, feel free to correct me.
Yep.
I no way claim to be an expert on professional wrestling. But my number 3 favorite match, which I remember watching live on pay-per-view at the Port Club.
Yep, of course.
I remember when this happened. Steve Blackman versus Shane McMahon at SummerSlam 2000.
Oh, nice.
I remember watching it at the Port Club, and I remember the point where Steve Blackman chased Shane McMahon up the rigging with that kendo stick and whacked him, and Shane McMahon just dropped.
Yeah.
I thought Shane McMahon was dead. Me being 13 years old at the time, watching it live on pay-per-view, I was sat there, mouth agape, holding my bag of ketchup chips in my hand. I thought Shane McMahon was dead. I was, there's no way he survived that. But, Test and Albert coming out and trying to interfere, and Steve Blackman putting them down, and, that match was probably the reason why, when I first started playing No Mercy on the N64, the very first match I played, the first character I used was Steve Blackman.
Yeah.
Because I thought, he was a karate guy, and he was the hardcore champ, and I just thought Steve Blackman was the shit back in those days.
Nice.
I thought he was a badass. Other people were like, Stone Cold, The Rock. I was like, no, Steve Blackman.
Man, those two are both sort of underappreciated Attitude Era guys.
Yep.
Because on one side of it, I mean, Steve Blackman was in a very small portion of guys who, they never really got their chance to shine as a top contender, but they were consistently, just absolute badasses in the ring.
Yep.
Steve Blackman, I he doesn't get the cred that, or the fame of, like you said, Stone Cold, The Rock, and those guys, but, he was always there, and he was always fucking good at what he did.
Oh my god, yes.
Two guys that come to mind in that regard are the Acolytes, Bradshaw and Farouk. Bradshaw got his chance to shine
before JBL.
Yeah, exactly. Bradshaw got his time to shine, but I never felt like Farouk, Ron Simmons, really got a chance to play at that top tier when he really was a fucking solid wrestler. And Shane McMahon, has anyone he really is probably okay, besides Mick Foley, obviously, has anyone else in that era put their body on the line so many fucking times? He was really up there with guys who just would risk it all.
When you think of wrestlers who put their bodies through hell, most people think Jeff Hardy or Mick Foley or Terry Funk, but when you think of Shane McMahon, most people just think, oh, Vince McMahon's son, fucking rich kid.
Yeah.
But Shane McMahon took a beating throughout his career.
Who was he fighting? Was it Kane when he went turnbuckle to turnbuckle? That whole fucking thing?
Maybe.
Yeah, that was fucking... I can't remember.
Tense.
I remember he was fighting someone huge. I feel like it was Kane. I could be wrong there.
But going how many wrestlers in their career have gone turnbuckle to turnbuckle?
Fucking few and far between, man.
Exactly. That is a feat of athleticism.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But speaking of someone putting their body on the line...
Yep.
My number 2 match of all time, Undertaker and Mankind, King of the Ring, 1998.
Yep.
That Hell in a Cell match?
I'm just gonna say this now. I won't wait. I won't hold the suspense. This is the second time this episode me and you have placed something exactly the same spot.
Nice.
That's my number 2 as well.
Like, Mick Foley going off the top of the cage through the announcer's table, through the cage itself, like...
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I'm going to throw this in there, and it's not the first time and won't be the last that I recommend this podcast. The Wizard and the Bruiser, again, they recently did an episode on Mick Foley himself, his whole career, his whole life, and they were talking about this particular match, and he convinced, I'm guessing McMahon and the bookers, that he could go off the top because he lied to them and told them that he had been up on top of the cage that very day and he felt totally comfortable and safe with it. But he was lying out of his ass, and the second in the match, when he gets up on top of the cage, when you watch it,
it starts to buckle.
Yeah, and he's fucking, like, he in his head is like, oh fuck, this is such a bad idea. And you can see him, he gets a little bit cautious there because he knows that, oh fuck, I made a mistake. I should never have decided to do this.
Yep.
And, like, I prefer this one to the Mankind Rock match, the I Quit match. Yep. Because this one is a little less ugly. It's a little easier to watch. The I Quit match went fucking too far.
Well, did you ever see the documentary about Mick Foley and the part where it shows his wife during that I Quit match?
I know what you're talking about. This is behind the mat, right?
Yeah.
The
part where it focuses on Mick Foley's wife and her reaction during that I Quit match.
Yeah.
The woman was hysterical. She was in tears. Like, she was inconsolable. She was convinced her husband was going to die.
Yeah. He, like... Might as well get my little bit about Mick Foley out here at the same time. Let's just talk about this. Mick Foley is one of the greatest of all time.
Oh, hands down.
I feel like he would be in contention for the single greatest of all time. Like, everything he lacked in technical skill, he had in heart and soul. I don't think there's ever been a wrestler who loved wrestling as much as Mick Foley.
Yeah.
Famously, there's a picture online of the match that inspired him. Jimmy Superfly Snuka cage match. I forget who was fighting, but he jumped off of the top cage. I think he just did like a body slam or something. But this is the first time anyone had really gone to that height. And front row, watching that match, was Mick Foley. You can see like a young, I'm going to guess teenage Mick Foley, and he is losing his shit because he just fucking loves wrestling that much. And, I mean, cut to the Hell in a Cell match where he flies off the top. I guess he was kind of imitating his hero there.
Yep.
In a way. But he just kept going. He just kept going for the fans. Like, you would imagine anybody else, if they took that fall off of the cell through that table, that would be it. That'd be the end of the match.
Yep.
But, fuck, I mean, the choke slam through the top, and then to go from there, and he managed to bust open Taker, and the tacks, like, He was an entertainer through and through.
My God, yes.
I really feel like Mick Foley is was one of the main reasons that I got so into wrestling and why I kept watching for so long.
And also, he had one of the greatest theme songs in wrestling history.
Which one?
Well, yeah. He had a
Mankind,
bunch.
I'm guessing.
The Mankind Mick Foley theme, like the car wreck one, is fucking phenomenal. You know what? In a future episode, we should do a top 5 of our favorite wrestling themes.
Yeah. We'll come back to wrestling maybe in time for like WrestleMania next year or something.
Fuck yeah. Let's put a pin in that topic because I want to come back to that one.
Yeah, we can do wrestling theme music and maybe finishing moves or something like that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. My number 1 wrestling match of all time is from WrestleMania 2000, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the original tables, ladders, and chairs match for the tag team title. Man.
That's my number 1.
Yeah?
Yes.
Edge and Christian, the Dudleys, and the Hardys.
Not to mention interferences by Lita, Spike Dudley, and Rhino.
Yep.
Yeah, that's funny, man. We got the same top 2 here. But, like, this was the one I went to look at, like, this one specifically, I went to watch highlights of, and then I just could not contain myself. I had to watch the entire match from start to finish.
Yeah. With
every replay, every intro, everything.
So 2 of my matches are from 2000, one's from 1998. So it's easy to tell, like, what age I was at when I was real big into wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah, let's get into it. You know what? Before we get into our top match, I'll just tell you my number 3 because we might as well just do this together. You're gonna see a theme with mine where it's always just guys absolutely taking a beating and giving their all. My number 3 was Stone Cold versus Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13.
Nice. That
was a fucking hell of a match.
Yep.
It's got the infamous ending of Stone Cold tapping out to the sharpshooter with a face full of blood. And man, just like I was going back, and basically I was at the point where like I had my top 2, and I was like, my number 3 is probably going to be either a Stone Cold or a Shawn Michaels match because those 2 guys were guys I was huge fans of.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, Bret Hart had a lot of chances to make that cut anyway, based on those 2. Probably the biggest rivalries he ever had. So I watched highlights of stuff, and just watching looking back at this Stone Cold Bret Hart fight, like for starters, like this was the moment that Bret Hart went heel, which was a big thing for wrestling for such a face. Like, I mean, the Canadian boy, Bret the Hitman Hart, to go heel and make that heel turn and become a bad guy over the course of a match. And I mean, he cemented it with his monologuing on the following night's Raw. But like, Stone Cold never really changed much of his attitude in that specific match. But I feel like that kind of put him over a little bit. And that I feel like is one of, like, I mean, I could be dating this wrong, but I feel like that has got to be one of the first real matches to set off the Attitude Era. I mean, I could be off by a little bit there, but it's got to be pretty close to the beginnings. I don't know. There's something nice about just seeing, like, there's no gimmicks, there's no cages, there's no tables and ladders and chairs and stuff. As much as I like it, it's just a classic fucking, to quote Jim Ross, it's a fucking slobber knocker.
Slobber knocker. I love that word.
Yeah, right? Like, that defines that word, though. Stone Cold, Bret Hart, 2 all-time greats, just going at it and kicking the absolute living shit out of each other. The honorable mention, the one that almost made the cut, was the first time Stone Cold and The Rock faced off at WrestleMania. I forget which one. It might have been X7. I can't remember exactly what WrestleMania that was. But that was another one of those ones where like you just had two absolute legends in the ring, and they put each other through hell, and they put off a great show, and it's just like a classic, fantastic wrestling match. So yeah, that's my number 3. We agreed on number 2, and let's get into tables, ladders, chairs.
Yep.
Did you watch this one live?
I did.
It was so just fucking astounding to see at the time.
Well, I mean, like, there was I don't know about you and your friends, but there was always this debate amongst me and my friends, like, when we were watching wrestling or we were playing wrestling games, like, what weapon was the best? Was it the ladder? Was it the table? Was it the chair? Like, obviously the steel chair is probably the most iconic of the 3 wrestling weapons.
Well, yeah.
But, like, you had Edge and Christian, who were using chairs all the time, and, like, it's such an iconic, classic wrestling prop. And then you had the Hardys doing their high-flying from the ladders and everything like that, and plus, like, just ladder matches in general. You had, like, people taking the big spills from the top of the ladders.
I mean, another, just to tie in there, another match that I considered in my top matches, the only one from the pre-Attitude Era that I considered was the Shawn Michaels Razor Ramon ladder match for the Intercontinental title. Yeah. That was a fucking hell of a match.
Yep.
Yeah, so, like, ladder matches go back a ways.
Oh, yeah. And then tables, like, people are always getting put through tables in professional wrestling. And then you just had, like, junior high, there were so many boys running around our school, like, just yelling, like, anytime you see a folding table anywhere, Devon, get the table!
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Oh, man. And, like, they led up to this match perfectly with the feuding between all 3 tag teams and the injuries to their kind of, like, third ringer guys. Yep. And the building up of the tables and the ladders and the chairs. Like, it was an excellent storyline that culminated in, again, my idea of the greatest wrestling match I've ever witnessed.
Yeah.
And, like, rewatching it, it holds up so well. It's still fucking amazing to watch.
Oh my god, yes.
Like, highlight points. Edge spearing Jeff Hardy off of a fucking 20-foot ladder.
Yep.
Insane. Absolutely fucking insane. The Jeff Hardy Swanton bomb off of the 20-foot ladder onto Rhino and Spike Dudley, going through, like, 3 or 4 tables or something like that. I forget how many tables. Like, fuck, man. The highlights and the big moments, you can just rhyme them off here.
So good. So good.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
like, all 6 of those guys involved in the main part of the match, not including, like, the managers and stuff that came in and, you know, tried to swing the match.
Yeah.
But just the main 6 guys in that match put it all out there. Like, they put it on the line for our entertainment that night.
Every single one of them took an absolute beating.
Yep.
And I think, honestly, I think all 6 of those guys, I don't know if any of them have it yet or not, I feel like maybe Edge, deserve a spot in the Hall of Fame. At least in the tag team division.
Oh my god, yes.
All 3 of those are, in my eyes, some of the greatest tag team partnerships of all time.
Yeah. They're right up there with, like, the Road Warriors and...
Yeah.
In my opinion, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, none of them will quite live up to the New Age Outlaws for me.
I was just about to say that. Road Dogg and badass Billy Gunn.
Oh, yeah. Those were the days, man.
You know what? Fucking Scotty Too Hottie. And fucking...
Oh, yeah. Grandmaster Sexay.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? That's something else we should probably briefly mention. Talking about wrestling deaths. Actually, Brian Lawler, Grandmaster Sexay, recently passed away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sad, tragic death. But yeah. Back to the TLC. Don't want to get too caught up in our dramatic, serious wrestling talk again there.
How did they get people to sign off on, like, okay, the way this match is going to end is with you putting your face in Rikishi's asshole?
Oh, I have no idea.
Like,
it was a weird time for wrestling.
Like, they had to be like, alright, I'll give you an extra, like, $5,000 for, like, this paycheck. Like,
yeah.
You have a 400-pound man who is obviously going to be sweating because he's, you know, running around and lifting things and, you know, under the bright lights. And so obviously this 400-pound man is going to be sweaty. Yeah. And you're going to put your face right in his stink hole.
Yep. I have no idea.
That is
no idea.
That is devotion to your craft.
Yeah. Either that or a desperation for cash.
Right? Like, holy fuck.
Boy. The Attitude Era was a fucking fun time.
Yeah.
Especially like the first couple of years of the Attitude Era was way more about the hardcore scene.
Yeah.
And then that's where the ridiculousness got in there with Rikishi and some of the diva matches and shit they did with like
X-Pac with the Bronco Buster.
The Bronco Buster, there you go. Yeah, like it was, and I mean it was fun, and it still like holds up. I remember like The Godfather and Val Venus, like it got really sexual there for a while.
Mark
Henry, sexual chocolate. Yeah.
Was he the world's strongest man? No. Sexual chocolate. And then, was it, like, Mae Young or Fabulous Moolah that he was, like, on the go with?
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Fuck. That brings me back. Oh, boy. That whole thing was something altogether. But, yeah, I guess that caps off our top wrestling matches. There were a few guys I wish I could have fit in here. Shawn Michaels being one, and maybe The Rock as well.
Yep.
But, I mean, it's not about our favorite wrestlers of all time. It's the favorite matches, so I'm fine with that.
When we come back to wrestling and we do theme songs, finishers, and we can do our like top 5 favorite wrestlers.
Yeah, that's an episode in and of itself.
Yeah.
Perfect. And we're recording this like what, 3 days after SummerSlam?
Something like that.
Yeah, funny enough. I've heard pretty good things. I heard it was a pretty good card.
Nice.
I looked at a lineup of it and I had no idea. Like, it was actually looked like a really fucking good lineup of matches.
Nice. I'm so not up on current wrestling.
Yeah, I come in and out of it. Like, let me just see. Where is the card here? They should have this laid out better. Okay, so we got... Like, I'm just quickly gonna look through this because it just sounded good. Braun Strowman and Kevin Owens fought. Samoa Joe and AJ Styles. The Miz and Daniel Bryan. Shinsuke Nakamura and Jeff Hardy, which sounds like a fucking great fight. Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. Ronda Rousey.
I know most of these people. I know the names, even though I'm not super familiar with them.
Yeah. Oh, and the New Day. That's something we should talk about real quick. Have you followed the New Day at all?
Not at all.
Out of like all current modern wrestling, the New Day are at least for a period of time were the best fucking thing ever, because they were like coming out at WrestleMania dressed in like Dragon Ball Z era costumes, and like they're like bringing anime and modern geekiness to the forefront of wrestling fans.
Like, I've seen them before. I saw them on Good Mythical Morning.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen like any other matches.
They make a lot of geeky references, even in some of like their finishing moves and stuff. And like one guy would come out playing like a trombone, and they were like dancing in the ring and shit. Like they're fun. I really enjoy what they've been doing. But for everything we said today, like leave us some comments below, guys. Like, if you have any particular wrestling matches that you want to mention that we did not talk about, that you think are some of the greatest, any fight scenes and so on, just throw them at us. Like, we're totally down for having some discussions, even on Facebook somewhere.
Yep. Hell yeah.
And we don't know that much about wrestling, so like I'm sure Matt has some recommendations here for some great matches that we definitely missed.
I know a few people who could definitely educate us on pro wrestling. Chris Rogers, Mel Hanneman.
Yeah.
For sure. So
anyone who's listening and has something like that, leave us a message. So I guess that'll be it for our episode today on fighting. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad we got to a lot of these topics.
Yeah. Before we go, I wanted to pose a question to our listeners that you can respond to us on Facebook, you can DM us, you can make a YouTube video, an audio recording to respond to us. But here's my question for everyone out there, and Ryan, you can respond to this as well if you think something up.
Yep.
Okay, so it's been long debated who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman.
Okay.
A lot of people say Goku would win. A lot of people say Superman would win. Like, they're pretty on even ground, so like they're fairly similar in strengths and feats and whatnot, so it's highly contested. But Batman has defeated Superman in the past.
Yeah, that's true.
Through exposing Superman's weaknesses to things like magic and kryptonite, for example. So, my question is it possible for Batman to beat Goku? If so, how?
That's a good question.
We talked about this a while back, and I've thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. And, like, I mean just Goku versus Batman. I'm, like, saying, oh, Goku would enlist the help of these Justice League members and take Goku down that way. No, I don't want that answer. I feel like that's a cop-out. Like, I know one of the times that Goku took Superman in Dark Knight Rises, the Dark Knight Returns, he enlisted the help of Oliver Queen.
Okay, yeah.
But, like, I'm trying to leave allies out of this. So, if you can think of a way in which Batman could beat Goku just using his wits, his skills, and his own technology and devices, like his arsenal that already exists, being like, him and Alfred and Lucius Fox build the Goku killer and he wins.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's hear it.
Let's do a bit of a fan poll.
Yep.
And on the next episode, we'll discuss the answers.
Yes, please.
But speaking of following up on recent episodes, on our last episode, we revealed the first round of our commentary track bracket.
Yes.
At the end of September, when Atlanticon weekend comes around, me and you are going to be recording a commentary track to go along to a movie.
Yep.
And we decided the best way to do that was to do an elimination style tournament. Definitely the simplest way to go about it. So we're getting fan votes here, and the votes are in. So round 2 is finished.
Round 1 is in the books.
Yes. Final scores. We had Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels versus Delivery Man. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels took that one 7-2.
Ooh.
Jurassic Park 3 versus Superbad. Jurassic Park 3 came out on top, 7-2 as well. A lot of 7-2s here. The closest match we had, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace versus Spider-Man 3. Phantom Menace edged out Spider-Man 3 by 1 vote, 6-5.
Which one won?
Phantom Menace.
Ooh.
Yeah. And lastly, Batman and Robin dominated Fantastic Four, or Fan Four Stick, 7-2.
God damn.
So, it's time again to vote. You can vote again. This time, we've got just the 2 matchups. I'll be posting about this in the same way that I did last time. So we got Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels is moving on to face Jurassic Park 3. In the half of this, it's actually comprised of good movies. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace versus Batman and Robin, the 2 towering titans of terrible film. So that's going to be fun. Get your votes in before the next episode. We'll be posting up on all of our various social media about that.
Hell yeah.
I feel like this feels like it's going pretty well. A lot of people actually voting on that, and I'm glad about that. And I feel like all the movies we have here are going to be great for a commentary track anyway.
Oh my god, yes. I have a feeling which one is going to win already.
Yeah.
But we'll see, because, you know, you can always be surprised. There's always the underdog story in these things.
That's true. It's true. So, last thing we need to do, you may be seeing it by now, I would say you are, because I'm going to try and get it up sometime today. We have brand new artwork.
Yes.
And it looks fucking great, and I love it.
Yep.
So obviously we have to shout out the artist that completed this for us, Adam Buckle.
Yeah, here in Corner Brook.
Yep. Yep. A really local guy, huh?
Yeah. He lives like a 5-minute walk away from me.
Wow. The artwork came out fantastic. I am absolutely in love with it. You're going to be seeing that around a little bit more. And even with other podcasts like Final Form and the Dropout Report and stuff, I'm going to start using this artwork as sort of a tag, just like in the corner of the artwork, just to sort of tie everything in together and show that it's all part of the Jedi Dropouts productions.
Hell yeah.
Plus, we have awesome artwork that was done by an actual artist, so I'm going to be using it as much as possible.
Oh my god, yes.
Just to fucking show it off, if nothing else.
No, I was super stoked with how it turned out. He was really easy to work with. Like, me and him were messaging back and forth on Facebook, like, pretty frequently, and as soon as he would have a rough draft of anything, he would send it to me and ask, like, okay, what do you want changed? Like, do you need this moved? Do you want the color on this done? And I would, like, send it to you and ask for your feedback as well, and then I would message him and, like, you know, tell him, like, oh, like, could this be a little bit more centered? Could, like, you know, and he was super easy to work with. He had the project done for us in no time at all. Like, he put so much of his own time into this project for us that it was done much quicker than I thought it was going to be, just because he was so devoted to the project. And I couldn't be happier working with the guy, and I will definitely be commissioning him again in the future.
Yeah. And for anyone looking for logos and artwork done, like, highly, highly recommend checking this guy out.
Yeah.
And I guess that will be it for another episode of Jedi Dropouts.
Woo! Yep.
Another one in the books.
Another one in the books. Too bad I can't read.
Yeah. That's always the problem with those damn books.
Yep.
As always, you can listen to other episodes of Jedi Dropouts, Final Form, the Dropout Report, what else we got? Hyper Battle, whatever else we think of over at www.jedidropouts.podbean.com, or available on pretty much every platform you can get your podcasts.
You can follow me on YouTube, Jimmy Romantic.
Yes.
You can also find me on Twitch, which I haven't been very active on Twitch lately, just because it's been summer, it's been nice out, I've been trying to spend as much time outside with the dog as possible, but now in the fall and winter I will be more active on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/xjimmyxromanticx, but the links to that will be on the Jedi Dropouts Facebook page.
Yeah, of course. I'm not doing much else aside from the podcasting, but I'm doing a hell of a lot of podcasting. Another little thing you can check out, I'm not sure when it's going to be up, I'm thinking either this week or next week, I guest appeared on somebody else's podcast for the first time. Hopefully not the last. I've mentioned Wasted Potential before, a podcast that my Final Form co-host Mitchell Clark has co-hosted quite a few times. It's hosted by Joseph. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, so I'm just going to call him Saul because that's what he normally goes by. Saul is he has a podcast called Wasted Potential, where he takes something he's a fan of, be it a video game, movie, TV series, what have you, spends a bunch of time talking about what he loves about it, and then goes into what needs to probably be fixed.
Nice.
So I sat down with him last week, and we recorded an episode on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was a lot of fun.
I'm definitely going to listen to that.
Yeah, I'll be posting the links to that whenever that's up. It was really fun, and really weird to be on a podcast, and then after I'm done recording, that's it. I just walk away, because I'm usually the mixer, the editor. I like, the recording is just the first step in a long process.
So this is how James feels.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you just get to go do something else now. It's weird.
Yeah.
What do I do now?
Like, as soon as we're done this, like, I mean, with our new setup, I do have to send you the audio files I'm recording on my side, but you're still going to be doing all the mixing and editing of that. But, yeah, like, while I'm waiting for it to upload to Dropbox so I can send it to you, I'm just going to go make a sandwich. Like...
that's what you're at.
Yep.
Yeah, I like the new setup, because now you know how it feels to be finished recording and have to do work.
Oh, man. Jeez.
Okay. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. Always appreciated all the downloads and listens and shares. People, I love it. I love that some people, even before listening to an episode, will share it just to be like, hey, everybody, go listen to this.
It means the world to me.
Yeah, because that one is not even like, there's like, in the process of listening to us and being a fan, that's not even a necessity in any way. So that's really like someone going out of their way to just show that they appreciate the podcast, and it means a lot to us.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So thanks again, everybody. Thank you for dropping by.
And something drop out.
And don't forget to drop the gloves. Later.
Peace.
This has been a Jedi Dropouts production.